Do we need balance controls? A question near and dear to my heart. And it comes to us from Tony in Oceanside, California. Tony writes, "Hey, I've been a true audiophile since I was a teenager. I'm now 54 years old, and I'm an electronic technician that's been repairing consumer and professional AV equipment for several decades. In all of my years of exposure to various audio systems, I can't remember a time when I have seen someone run their balance control pot anywhere but the center detent position. I understand how a balance control can be useful if you are sitting very off axis from the center listening position. But even in this case, listeners don't seem to move their balance control. When listening in a car, we're always off axis, yet we run the balance in the center position for even output from both channels. I guess this is more of a rhetorical question, or as talk show host Arsenio Hall used to say, it's just something that makes you go, Thanks for your time and input, Tony Martin." Great question, Tony, and something that's near and dear to my heart. Balance controls are about as useless as tits on a bowl. I mean, we use the volume control. We have never made a preamplifier without a balance control. The closest we ever got to it was a product called the VK, the volume kit that Stan and I made years and years ago. And it had twin volume controls. So, I mean, you could jimmy one up and one down, but you had to turn, kind of clunky because you had to turn both of them up at the same time. I have struggled with this question forever. Nobody uses them. On occasion, I've seen people flip them over to see if that channel's working and flip it back this way to see if that channel's working. On the rarest of occasions, somebody will have something amiss, and so there'll be 1 degree or, this way or that way, but it's rare. It is so rare. And in order to make a balance control, at least back in the day, we had to add an extra pot, an extra knob, and an extra thing in the signal path. And it just galled me, always. But we did it because we have enough experience in this industry to know that there are some things that are like a checkbox. Got a balance control? Check. And people look at it and go, well, why would I buy one without it? I mean, what happens if I need it, right? It's kind of like that fire extinguisher in the house that you just never use. You don't want to be out without it. I know we have several fire extinguishers in our kitchen, but if a grease fire started tomorrow, I don't know where the hell that fire extinguisher is. It's probably under the sink, and it's probably where I would go. And it's not smart to not have one, but in the 50, 60 years I've been cooking, I've always had a fire extinguisher near and yet have never used it. Maybe that's a poor analogy because, man, if you need a fire extinguisher, you better have one. But I mean, you could always throw something over it and get the oxygen out. Anyway, they're just useless. And we put it on there because customers don't want to buy products that don't have them. And it's like, there's some other, I can't think of anything right off the bat, but there are other things like that, but nothing quite as obvious as the balance control. If you need to use your balance control, you've got something wrong and you ought to fix it. And that's the best advice I can give you. Now, why do we still do it today? Well, we do it today because it's free, and there's still that checkbox. So today we don't use pots. So this on a preamp, and regardless of what preamp that we have, our controls are now electronic. They electronically maneuver analog circuitry. We don't use digital circuitry for those for the volume control on any of our analog products. It's all analog, but it's not a physical pot with a motor or with a variable resistor. So it's all analog, but it's all controlled electronically. And there's twin circuits that go up and down in perfect lock sync. So in order to make a balance control, we just, using the microprocessor, just instruct the analog control, just go down or go up, whatever, and then it tracks up and down. So today, balance controls are free. So why not? But back in the day, back when it did cost in terms of sonics, in terms of money, I don't know anybody that was brave enough to make preamps without it. And part of the reason that is because they likely didn't sell many preamps. So you probably didn't know much about them. Okay, great question, and thanks for asking. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.